This is Christopher C. Mosley, editor-in-chief of Legends on the Rise. Thank you for tuning in.
Christopher Mosley, videographer and photographer extraordinaire. Tell me about your childhood and where you grew up.
So I grew up in Anniston, Alabama. It's like halfway between Birmingham and Atlanta. It's a small city, a lot of violence, guns and drugs, pretty much like the same thing as Birmingham for real, but like on a smaller scale. It's less to do there. It's really like a little retirement town. Not a lot of success or people really make it out of Anniston for real. The thing about Anniston is they got a corrupt police department. So, they planted drugs on me when I was 16. I was like a basketball player, and they planted drugs on me in Anniston. Basically, before I wasn't even smoking then. So I think they pretty much tried to plant drugs on me to kind of frame me. They knew I played sports and everything. I just say all that to say that like it's a city of like corruptness and racism. It's just not a lot of people make it out of Anniston for real, but that's where I grew up at. I went to Jacksonville too for a little while near JSU with my mom, but I stayed with my dad for the most part. I like computers. I wasn't really like, like a nerd or nothing, but I like computers and stuff like that growing up, as well as sports. Uh, did karate for a little while. So, you know, I done did a few little things coming up.
How old were you and how did you realize that you had a gift for photography and videography?
I was probably like 21 or 22. My wife does hair, so she was doing a photo shoot at a place, and I pretty much was just kind of watching the photographer the whole time, and I kind of picked up on what he was doing and like asked him what kind of camera he was using, and we ended up not getting our pictures back from that shoot, and like the way he handled the business just like it wasn't good. So it made me really wanna, like, I'm the type of person, like I try to figure out how I can do that myself, like to try to figure out if I can do that and cut the middleman out. So that's basically what I did. I bought a camera. I bought the wrong kind of camera first. Like I bought like a point and shoot camera. Like I spent $500 on a little point and shoot camera that you can't switch the lenses on, trying to get started and get into it. But I ended up falling in love with it, and I bought another camera and figured out what I needed. And I just kind of just fell in love with the craft of it for real, like the creative part of it, just the struggle and grind part of it. Like that's just how I got into it, like trying to help my wife promote her business, which I still do. But that's what started all of it for me.
Yeah. Tell me about this job that you left. I hear that you had a job making 50K a year. You left that job to be a videographer. Tell me a little about that.
Yeah. So a lot of people don't know this for real, but like I got a math degree. Like I went to school for math at Talladega College. I graduated in the top of my class. I went to the University of Alabama at Huntsville for 2 years, and I ended up dropping out of the mechanical engineering program. So I like got an educational background, but like that just wasn't for me. Like after I graduated from Talladega, I went on to work for Talladega College as an accountant, where I was over student accounts first, and then I was over accounting, and then I was the bursar for 2 years, which does student accounts. And then I went to UAB, and I was an accountant there for like, I want to say 5 years. And then while I was working at UAB, it was like God didn't really have that in my plans for real. Like nothing was working out. Like they was dumping all the work on me. I was getting all my work done, but they were still kind of picking on me at the same time. Like it was just like I was getting a sign from God, like that job really just was not for me. As much as I tried to make it work, like it got to the point where when it was time for me to get up and go to work, my stomach would start hurting. Like I started feeling sick, like for real. Like I hated going in there so much that I would feel sick in the morning time to my stomach, for real. And like even though I was making good money, the ends wasn't meeting. Like, and I don't even think it had nothing to do with money. It's just because that was not where God wanted me to be at. So he was giving me a sign like to jump out there on faith. So it got to the point where that job was getting in the way of me working with the camera. So when people started hitting me up and I'm at work and I'm missing out on gigs and I'm like, damn, I could have made $200 or $300 today, but I'm at work and my check ain't gonna be but XYZ. But if I do this 3 or 4 times a week, I have XYZ. I was like, shit, it's time to go. It's time to go. And ever since I left, I ain't had to even worry about that. Like, I ain't like kind of trying to brag or nothing to say that I'm like got it like that. But like as far as like financially, I ain't really had to like stress about it like that. It's like God just take care of everything for me. Like for real. Ever since I just followed my gut spiritually for real.
Yeah. So how long has it been since you started your videography full time?
It's been 5 years since I left UAB to do this full time, and I've been doing it for 8 years in total. I've been doing it.
So, Mr. Mosley, what sets you apart from others and what makes your work so special?
So I feel like what sets me apart from other directors is like you got a lot of good directors out there, you know what I'm saying? And if you follow them, you know what type of sets they have. They rent out venues, they block off the street, they talk to the management and rent out the spot. But you ain't got no videographer out there that's pulling up on the spot, not asking for permission and just shooting and coming out with the kind of caliber of work we putting out. Like for real, like if they want to get a trap scene, they pulling out a jib and a truck and all this shit to get a trap scene, but we just pulling up to the trap and the trapping still going on. Like when I'm shooting some trapping, that shit is happening. We ain't planning no shot to get no shot of nobody selling shit. That's what the fuck was going on and we shot it. Like for real. Like ain't nobody else doing that shit. They stopping and they setting it up and they putting up lights and they asking people to do shit. We just shooting it, bro. Like we just shooting it. And that's what I think really sets my work apart because they say, damn, like I like your vibe or it's just something about your videos, even though they not the most like corporate. Like that's the only way I can word it. Like they not the most corporate as far as like the lighting and the mansions and all that. But the vibe of them, like the real vibe of the videos is like, that's really what was going on in the video. Like a lot of it, we not planning it. Like we plan out how we want to shoot it. But as far as like the locations and like pulling up to where we pull up at, it's just authentic. Like it's an authentic vibe. And that's what I think is priceless when it comes to this profession for real.
So, Mr. Mosley, we know that starting a business can be challenging in itself. Tell us about some of the challenges that you had in starting your business.
One of the most challenging things for real was like learning how to separate. This might sound crazy, but separating family and friends from your business. Cause like they can be an easy way for you to fail because you might look at it like, I'm gonna give you a deal or I may do this for free for you because it's family, but that can be one of your biggest downfalls right there is just trying to separate family from business and making sure you charge. Even if it's like a close relative, you want to set boundaries for yourself and say, hey, this is the discount I give for my friends and family or somebody I've been rocking with for a minute. So setting that up early, making boundaries and setting whatever your discount is, that's one of the main parts about success for real. And that was one of my major challenges of being able to charge somebody that you really don't want to charge unless it's like, your mama or your daddy or something like that. You ain't charging nobody like that. But like as far as like people you went to school with or friends or, people that you grew up with, you want to make sure you still get at least something for your time. Yeah, that's really it for real. And just trying to balance everything at the same time. That's one of the major challenges.
What are some of the obstacles that you faced in your profession?
I say like specific to my situation, something that I has faced is just like when I first started out, my wife, she does hair, so she had a hair salon and just trying to balance her appointments with mine. It'll be like some stuff I can't really take. And then I got like an autistic son. Like a lot of people don't know I got an autistic son and he got a lot of energy. And you know, I don't really get the time that I want to get to edit. Like I might have to stay up kind of late to make sure he go to sleep so I can hop back up and get back on the computer. But I don't really have like the time that another person might have to edit. And I don't know everybody's situation. It might be somebody else out there that's going through the same thing. But just speaking from my point of view, it's hard for me. Like that's something that's hard for me is like having the time to edit. Even though from the outside looking in, y'all might say, you know, I get my stuff out quick, but y'all don't see what it takes for me to have to do that. Like even making it to appointments, like it was sometimes I had to take my son or my kids to Anniston when my wife was working and then come back to Birmingham and shoot some and then go back and pick them up. Like it's a lot of sacrifices that people do not see or know that I made to keep this going, because I may not say nothing. Like you may not know I ain't slept in a couple of days, because that's not really my place to tell you that. I just want you to get good service from, you know, from start to finish. So that's one of the major challenges for me, just trying to balance everything and the behind the scenes things that people don't know you going through to keep this business going.
Wow, seems like a lot going on. So with all that going on, what keeps you motivated and what keeps you going?
Really just family, man. Family. Like I said, my son, my daughter, and my wife, they keep me going, and like trying to make sure that I don't make the next generation or they kids go through what I'm having to go through. Like that's my main thing, because I feel like that's kind of like a trend in society, especially with African Americans. We tend to make our kids or the next generation have to do it all over again. And that's what I don't want to have to do. Like sometimes non-intentionally, but you got some people who, you know, they may make it, or you may get to a point where your money is good, but you may put on to your kids like, nah, you're gonna have to get out there and get it. But it's like they need an opportunity. Like let them stay at the house for a little while if you got enough space till they get themselves together. As long as they ain't playing around, like I feel like that's one of the things we got to work on as people, for real. Just giving the next generation the opportunity. But that's what keeps me going, is trying to make sure my kids and their kids won't have to do this all over again. I want to teach them a different way, or be able to get them a trust fund or something where they ain't got to really just start from the mud. Because you see other ethnicities might say, you know, they might travel the world before they get into the workforce. So when it's time for them to go to UAB and go to work every day, they relax. You know, they come in to work, they ready to go because they getting their check. And I done seen it at UAB. I done seen the little white boys come in there and they set up. They make a position for them at $100,000 a year. It ain't a lot of work. I was doing way more work than them, and they coming in there happy, got the house, you know, low mortgage, good credit, and they set up. Like that's just what I want for my kids, even if they want to work at the office, because that ain't what it's about. It's just about setting the next generation up for success. That's what keep me going.
So Mosley, I know you wear many different hats and you can be found in many different locations. So tell us about your social media, your YouTube channels, and how you can be found.
So on Instagram, you can find me at Christopher C. Mosley. That's Mosley. I got a website, which is christophercmosley.weebly.com. That's Weebly.com. And then YouTube is Christopher C. Mosley. Facebook is Christopher C. Mosley. So everything is under Christopher C. Mosley.